At first, nothing looks unusual. Central Asia stretches out in front of you: deserts, grasslands, mountain ranges. Then your eyes catch an enormous body of water, so big it almost reads as an inland ocean. Ships used to cross it. Fishing towns lined every inch of its shore. Millions of people depended on it for their livelihood. Now, fast forward a few decades, watch the blue start to shrink. The shoreline pulls back from the towns that were built right up against it. Islands fuse with the mainland because there's no water left to separate them. Harbors turn into literal deserts. Fishing boats sit stranded on dry sand, sometimes dozens of miles from the nearest drop of water. By the time it's done, what used to be the fourth largest lake on the planet is almost unrecognizable. And here's the part that should stop you. This wasn't some slow geological process that took thousands of years. This happened within a single human lifetime. One of Earth's largest lakes didn't just get smaller, it nearly vanished. So what actually happened? How does an entire sea disappear from the map? It wasn't a meteor. It wasn't a sudden geological shift. And weirdly enough, it wasn't even climate change on its own. This one starts with a plan, an ambitious, deliberate plan to reshape nature itself. To understand this, we need to head to the heart of Central Asia. Today, the Aral Sea sits between Kazakhstan to the north and Uzbekistan to the south, and calling it a sea is a little misleading. It's technically a lake, a massive one with no natural outlet to the ocean. For thousands of years, two rivers kept it alive, the Amudarya and the Sardarya. Every spring, snow and glaciers melted high up in the mountains, and those rivers hauled that fresh water clear across the desert until it reached the lake. The system just worked. Water flowed in, some evaporated, and the lake stayed remarkably stable. Communities thrived along the shore. Fishing became a major industry. Ports connected far-flung settlements. Wetlands gave migratory birds a place to rest on their way across continents. It felt permanent. Turns out permanence can be a lot more fragile than it looks. By the mid-20th century, the Soviet Union looked at this same lake and saw something completely different. Not an ecological treasure, wasted water. The deserts around the Aral Sea were dry, hot, mostly empty, but they also had serious agricultural potential if you could just get enough water to them, and one crop in particular drove nearly every decision that followed: cotton. Cotton is thirsty. It needs enormous amounts of water, and the Soviet government wanted to become one of the world's biggest cotton producers. The fix seemed simple on paper. Redirect the rivers before they ever reached the lake. Engineers built thousands of miles of canals, and water that had been flowing toward the Aral Sea for millennia suddenly took a hard left turn, spreading out across cotton fields hundreds of miles away instead. And at first, honestly, it worked. Harvests went up, cotton production exploded, entire regions turned into productive farmland. But every gallon that went to the fields was a gallon that never made it to the lake. The change was almost impossible to notice at first. The shoreline crept back just slightly. Nobody was particularly worried. Then it started speeding up. The Aral Sea sits in a dry climate, so evaporation never stops. It's constantly losing water to the air, every single day. Normally the rivers kept up with that loss. Now they couldn't. Think about filling a bathtub while someone quietly cracks the drain open. For a while, the water level barely budges, but eventually, the drain always wins. That's basically the whole story. Year after year, the lake kept shrinking. Satellite images caught the whole thing, happening: entire bays vanishing, the shoreline retreating farther and farther from towns that used to sit right on the water. Eventually, the lake split apart entirely, breaking into separate, disconnected bodies of water. Cartographers had to keep redrawing the map. By the early 2000s, some sections had lost more than 90% of their original volume. One of the largest lakes on Earth had quietly become one of the biggest environmental disasters on it. The fallout went way beyond just missing water. Fishing collapsed almost overnight. At its peak, this lake produced tens of thousands of tons of fish a year, and entire towns built their economy around processing plants and boat crews. As the water disappeared, fish populations crashed. Rising salinity made survival impossible for a lot of species. Ports ended up stranded miles from any actual shoreline. Boats just stopped floating wherever they happened to be. Today, you can walk out into the middle of what used to be open water and find rusting ships sitting in the sand, one of the most genuinely surreal landscapes on the planet. Ships surrounded by nothing but dust. Here's a consequence almost nobody saw coming. For decades, minerals, fertilizer runoff, industrial chemicals, and pesticides had been settling into the lake bed. Once the water disappeared, all of that dried out and sat exposed. Strong winds picked it up and carried it sometimes hundreds of miles. Dust storms started dropping salt onto farmland that had nothing to do with the original problem. Crop yields dropped. Respiratory illness rates climbed in nearby communities. The irony's hard to miss. An effort to boost agriculture ended up quietly damaging agriculture somewhere else entirely. Even the local climate shifted. Large lakes act like a thermostat. Water heats and cools way more slowly than land does, so the Aral Sea used to soften the extremes. Summers a bit cooler, winters a bit milder. Once the water was gone, so was that buffer. Summers got hotter, winters got colder. Growing seasons shrank. A single missing lake had rewritten the regional weather. Wildlife took the same hit. Wetlands dried up. Migratory birds lost critical rest stops on routes they'd used for generations. Native fish species disappeared. Reeds withered. When people picture a lake disappearing, they usually just picture missing water. What actually unravels is an entire ecological network. Every species tied to that water either adapts, relocates, or vanishes. A lot of them couldn't do either. This isn't a story that ends entirely in tragedy, though. In the early 2000s, Kazakhstan launched a genuinely ambitious restoration project, but they didn't try to save the whole lake. That would have been basically impossible. Instead, they focused everything on one section, the northern basin. They built the Aral Dam with one job: keep whatever river water remained from continuing south and let it refill the north instead. And against a lot of expectations, it actually worked. Fish came back. Commercial fishing resumed on a smaller scale, and local economies started recovering. It's one of the rare cases where targeted environmental engineering actually reversed decades of decline. The southern basin, though, is a different story. Restoring it would take amounts of water the surrounding countries still depend on for their own agriculture. That trade-off hasn't gone away. And here's why this story matters way beyond Central Asia. Lakes all over the world are under the same kind of pressure. Lake Chad has swung dramatically over the decades. The Great Salt Lake keeps hitting record lows during drought years. The Dead Sea is still shrinking as water gets diverted upstream. Every one of these is the same lesson on repeat. Maps can change a lot faster than we assume. We tend to treat geography like it's permanent. Mountains stay put, rivers keep flowing, lakes stay full. But a lot of these landscapes only exist because a very delicate balance is being maintained. Disrupt that balance, and even features you can see from space can start disappearing. Maybe that's the real paradox here. The Aral Sea wasn't destroyed by an earthquake, a volcano, or an asteroid. It vanished because of thousands of small engineering decisions made over decades. A canal here, a diversion there, another irrigation project, another expansion. No single decision drained the lake, but stacked together, they rewrote the geography of an entire region. Sometimes the biggest changes on Earth don't happen in one dramatic moment. They happen so gradually that the people living through it barely notice until one day somebody looks at a map and realizes something enormous is just gone. Today, satellites are still tracking every stage of this transformation. It's one of the clearest visual records we have of humans reshaping the planet, a body of water visible from orbit, slowly fading out of existence. It's a good reminder that geography isn't only shaped by tectonic plates and glaciers. Sometimes it's shaped by canals, farms, economics, and decisions made hundreds of miles away by people who never saw the lake at all. The Aral Sea probably never fully returns to what it was. But its story keeps shaping how governments think about water and agriculture today. And honestly, it raises a question worth sitting with. If one of the largest lakes on Earth could disappear within a few decades, what else on today's map? Are we just assuming we'll always be there? Thanks for watching GeoParadox. If a place you know is dealing with something similar, a shrinking lake, a vanishing coastline, whatever it is, drop it in the comments. That's usually where our next deep dive comes from. We're back every week digging into the why behind the where.